and Thursdays, and it's greatly appreciated. I get in a wonderful workout. I'm always in a great mood when I get in, and I am here for the 4 to 6 o'clock hour. We'll have a very special emotional interview in hour number 4. Megan will be here for the first part of this hour. Then Mark Durham will join me on the phone from Phoenix, Arizona. We had him on about 3 weeks ago, right before I left for Asia. And Mark is a huge Republican, and I believe he's about my age. I think he's like a 55-year-old white male Republican Trump supporter in this horrible economy. He is jobless and almost homeless when he got on this show, and he is now homeless. He lost his car, and he lost his home, couldn't pay his rent, and he's wandering the streets of Phoenix, but he has a job, and the job will allow him to make money and get his car back, but he set up a GoFundMe page to try and get his car back, which was repossessed about a week ago, and I am going to point people to that page, and I'm hoping many of you will listen and do something about it, and you don't have to send him $1 million. Everybody's hurting in this terrible, horrible Obama economy, and it still is, of course, the Obama economy that's plaguing the country. But if everyone sends $5, $10, or $20, he'll get his car back, and he'll be able to get his dignity back because he needs a car to get to work, and he's got a job now. But he can't take the job unless he gets his car back. So that's the reality of what's out there in the real world, thanks to Barack Obama. And nobody wants to talk about it. Democrats are in denial. They want to hide it. The media wants to hide it. But you know what? It's not just black people hurting. There's plenty of white males, 55 years old, who can't find a job and can't keep their payments going and are in severe financial trouble. And Mark is the face of them. We'll have him on at 4:20. At 5:20, Corey Lewandowski will be here, who was the former and original campaign manager for Donald Trump. For 1 year, Corey ran Donald Trump's life and managed his entire campaign and was a big part of getting him elected President of the United States, a big part of getting him the nomination for the GOP, which is the first step before you can elect him President of the United States. And Corey has now formed a lobbying firm and a political consultancy firm in Washington, D.C. He's representing candidates running for president and prime minister of foreign countries, as well as American candidates, as well as lobbying. And he is a big shot now, and his life changed. He went from kind of a little shot to a big shot. He's one of the big boys, like a Karl Rove now, and I wanted to get him on the show. He actually had breakfast at my home on Sunday, and we become buddies, and I wanted to get him on the show to tell his story, how he went from a complete nobody to running Donald Trump's presidential campaign and how his life dramatically changed. All right. So, Megan, I came in with the very first thing to talk about. Ironic, because I forgot that Mark Durham was on the show today. And yet the first thing I saw that struck me, jumped out at me on the Internet Today news was that the Atlanta Fed, which is always accurate, has just slashed first quarter GDP to only 1.3%. So even though I criticized Obama for the last quarter being 1.6%, horrible, now we've gone down a step lower. And I'm sure some Democrats will say, see, Trump didn't save us. He's been in office for a month. This is Obama's quarter still, and there's nothing Trump can do until Congress approves his tax cuts. They haven't done any of that yet. So the economy is still in shambles, and perhaps this proves getting worse. I also want to point out that U.S. records the biggest trade deficit in 5 years, jumping from $44 billion to $48 billion in January. Donald Trump was right again. The world is crushing us. We're buying their stuff. They're not buying ours. And finally, America's desperate mall owners turn to grocers, doctors, and high schools to fill massive amounts of empty space. Every mall in America is dying. Is that a sign of a healthy economy? Things are bad, and no one wants to talk about it.
No, you're absolutely right. And this was actually a good segue because on the way out, I was talking about Obamacare and how that was passed, and I saw Jan Schakowsky, the Democrat from Illinois, talking about her worry and her hand-wringing of the Medicare recipients in Illinois.
Right.
And, when Obamacare was passed, one of the results was just dumping a whole bunch of people on
Medicaid.
Medicaid.
Which destroys the system.
Completely.
Right.
And that's why a lot of doctors just stopped accepting
You
Medicaid
do realize
patients.
before that happened, doctors don't want Medicaid or Medicare, by the way.
Correct. Because
it doesn't pay enough.
No, they get paid like 1 penny on the dollar.
Right. So they don't want it. I don't blame them.
And it usually clogs up their rooms.
So why is no Republican making the point that you didn't give anyone anything? You gave them the right to see a doctor, and no doctor will see them. And there aren't any doctors with a sign that says, we'll take you. So they got nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
And instead, so what they got was, or the producers in Illinois, meaning the hardworking people, the people that are really paying the premiums.
Got screwed with a big increase.
Screwed, right? And so she's like, well, what about the, 40% of Illinoisans are on Medicaid.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Hello?
That's great.
I mean, why aren't you trying to get those people off of Medicaid instead of keep them on Medicaid?
Not only try to get them off,
And
but
they-
doesn't anybody have shame anymore?
Right. And so, what she doesn't realize, or what she refuses to realize because she's basically a communist, is that a 1% GDP for 8 years is causing more and more people to get on Medicaid.
But it's
And
also
so-
because there's no shame. Listen, when my grandfather died, Louis Root. Oh, you're not getting any sound at all, Megan? You can't hear a thing? Just make it loud, Charlie. Sometimes I find in
And
that
my
phone.
mic.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Thank
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So Louis Root was my grandfather from Russia. Louis Root died in the poor ward of a Brooklyn hospital in the 1920s. And when he died, he left 7 children and a wife who had no idea how to work. Why would she work? She had 7 children.
Right.
And not once did my family take welfare. There was no Medicaid. I don't believe there was welfare, by the way. There was nothing to take. But whatever there was, they didn't take any of it. They all started to get a job. All the kids got a job. The Root kids got a job. They shined shoes. They ran errands. They made deliveries. Whatever it was, they got a job. Not all of it was pretty. My father joined a gang. They used to play craps on the street corner. That's why I am the person I am today.
I heard you had an Italian alien.
Yes, exactly.
What was it? Mario Cuccinelli or something?
No. Now you're making me forget. It was Tony Scalero. That was the name I used for a very little while. We're talking about for 6 months of my life, I called myself Tony Scalero. But we'll forget that.
We're never going to forget
I lived in an all-Italian neighborhood, and I wanted to date Italian girls.
Until they called your house, and your mom's like, there's no Tony here.
Well, it wasn't just that. I also was a little confused because I was telling you my name was Tony Scalero, but I had a Jewish star around my neck. And when I showed up at a couple of Italian girls' houses, they were in love with me. We were doing great. Then I showed up, and their father's eyes zeroed in on the Italian, on the Jewish star. And they were like, what is that? And I was like, it's a Jewish star. I thought your name was Scalero. You're not dating my daughter anymore. Leave. And they kicked me out of the house. I swear to God.
You forgot to replace the Jewish star with the Italian horn.
Stupid.
And the pinky ring.
A cross.
That
I
would
should
have been
worn
a dead
cross.
giveaway.
I should have worn a cross. But anyway, that's another story for another time. That's
Right.
for Nelson Sardelli's appearances. That's for Thursday. You're invited, by the way. You know that.
Oh, okay, I have to know what's going on.
Yes,
You tell me
you're
after.
Compton, 11:30
Really? Okay.
at the Italian American Center. It is called the Italianization of Wayne, and I'm being knighted
Oh, my God.
Italian. So should be a fun day. I'm sure I'm being roasted. No one has told me anything that's happening.
I can't wait.
But I'm sure they have comedy writers doing a roast of Wayne Root. It's a packed house. They already have a huge crowd, and they're hoping for more to be an all-time record.
It would
So-
feel
and
like I'm
everyone's
back
invited.
in Chicago.
All
like
of you
down
are invited. So we
down
told
in
you the
Rush.
address yesterday. If you don't know the address, I don't have it in front of me. Do you have it in front of you, Charlie? Charlie might have it. It's non-club Fiore, I believe, at something.com. You have it? Here we go. Good man, Charlie. So you have to RSVP, and you RSVP to non-club Fiore at gmail.com. Non-club Fiore, Fiore, at gmail.com.
And
All
I'm
right.
already set up, right?
You're set up.
All
You're
right,
ready
cool.
to go. So the point of my conversation is completely lost now. I don't even know where I was. I have no idea. You have completely blown it all up, and it's done.
Okay, Carlos Danger. Oh, I'm sorry,
The
wrong one.
economy's in death. The economy's been destroyed.
1.9
and it's bad. Yeah,
death spiral
1.3.
or
1.3
1.3
GDP, yeah.
Okay,
Real
and
bad.
then Obamacare, like I was saying.
Oh, Obamacare, yes.
put so many people
Yes.
on Medicaid that it
Yes.
didn't really do anything.
Yes.
It just flooded the system with more poverty.
Now, here's another example. Not only does no Democrat care that the middle class has been ruined, all their oh my God, people are going to be kicked off Obamacare. They don't have anything in the first place, and the middle class has been ruined. They don't care about that. Same thing, I compare it to Trump saying he was eavesdropped on. Obama spied on him under FISA, and liberals say that's a lie. It didn't happen. And Micah Brzezinski got on MSNBC yesterday and said, oh, my God, the world is ending. My world's been ripped apart. We have a horrible Nazi despot as president. What are we going to do about it? I can't take it anymore. He lies about everything. So where was Micah Brzezinski when yours truly, Wayne Root, was being attacked viciously by the IRS in such an over-the-top fashion that law firms were hired, and the law firm said they'd never seen anything like it in their entire lives, the way the IRS was coming after me. And it just so happened that I was one of the biggest critics in America of the president, Barack Obama. You mean you don't believe that that same man that would sick the IRS on Tea Parties, Jewish pro-Israel groups, Christian groups, pro-Constitution groups, try and destroy people's lives.
Italian Jews.
Yes, Italian Jews. That same guy wouldn't sick wiretaps on Trump Tower? You're damn right he did.
That's right.
And where was Micah when I was losing my life and my life savings? She didn't give a damn, and neither does any liberal. When they're out of control, no one cares. What was Nixon? Two things. He used the IRS to go after his opponents, and there was a break-in, which is like spying on your opponents. What's Obama? Spying on a guy running for president
And his
and
campaign
using the
staff.
IRS to go after everyone.
That's right.
And how about
and
going
the DOJ.
and
and the
reporters?
NSA.
Remember
And
Rosen?
Rosen was bugged.
at Fox News.
And his family.
Right.
His
It's a
family.
joke. It's a joke.
This is a constitutional argument, rather as far as the growth and the tyranny of government.
Right, but
This is what
Democrats
it is.
only see tyranny with a guy who's been in office for a month who hasn't done anything yet.
Oh, you know,
But-
there's a women's march tomorrow.
Where's this?
Oh God, it's like across the country. Schools are closing. I won't.
What?
Be going.
They just
yeah,
had
another
one.
Yeah, it's actually it was organized by a Palestinian terrorist who served 10 years in prison.
Well, the last one in Washington was organized by a Muslim
And
Muslim
communists
woman.
and terrorists. Yes.
So it's a
yeah.
different Muslim sympathizer
Correct.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Great to hear. I'm always thrilled to hear about people taking work off. You know, that's the what did I used to
Schools
joke?
are closing.
What did I say at one of my Trump rallies? I'm sorry there are protesters outside. If we had just told it was a job fair, no one would have showed up. And that's why these women are marching. They need a job. They need something to do.
Right.
Please get them a job. They obviously have absolutely nothing
Well,
to
they were
do.
supposed to be teaching kids tomorrow, but the school's shut down.
So it's all teachers, is what you said. Lots
Basically.
of teachers.
Yeah,
of course.
because the
yeah,
NEA,
radicals.
I'm sure, sponsoring it.
Radical union communist organizer teachers, exactly. Barack Obama's crowd. All right, Megan Barr, thank you very much
You're welcome
for being here
Carlos.
through my rants and for doing the hour. As always, you do
Always, and
great.
thanks for last week.
I still get lots of emails. I mean, all the
I
time.
got that one.
And they
Yeah.
all say, I sent one to you,
Yeah.
just a specific one that needed you, number one. But I mean, I get lots of others that say, we love you, Wayne. You're the greatest. Oh, P.S. We love Megan. So it's always, they don't even say, I love you, Wayne, anymore. It's got to be P.S. We love Megan. So you're doing something right.
Thank
so
you.
good job. Great job. All right, Wayne Allyn Root. War Now. We get back. We'll be talking to Mark Durham, who I believe is really the face of the angry white male, the book I wrote. He is an angry white male, and for no fault of his own, he is homeless right now, but not jobless. If he can get his car back, he can get to work and get his life back together. And I want all of us to go to his GoFundMe page. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Wayne Allyn Root, War Now, 790 Talk Now in Vegas, 98.1 FM in Palm Springs, Coachella Valley, and soon to be nationally syndicated all over this great country. War Now. This is war. All right, Wayne Allyn Root back again. Do we have Mark Durham on the line? We got him on? Okay, good. All right. So, listen, here's a story. If you weren't with us in the first segment, this is Wayne Root. War Now is the show, 790 Talk Now in Vegas, and 98.1 FM in Palm Springs. Just a little station identification for you so you know where you are. And I don't know where I am because I've been in Asia for 2 weeks. I'm still jet lagged. I don't even know what time it is. I don't know where I am. I don't know my name, but I do know it's War Now. And Mark Durham is was our guest 3 weeks ago and is our guest now. He was very close to becoming homeless then. He was very close to losing his car then. He is kind of the face of my book, Angry White Male. He is a middle-aged white male, educated, smart, very good salesman, very good marketing skills, and couldn't find a job. There just was nothing out there and is nothing out there. And since then, he has become homeless and he has lost his car and he is in Phoenix. He has had a job offer, but he needs a car to get to the job. So he's got a GoFundMe page, and I told him I would bring him on the show and let him promote his GoFundMe page, tell people where they can send some money. I don't care if it's $5 or $10 or $20. There's no such thing as too little. Send $1. But I want my audience to get together and show the power of faith and God and the power of the Republican Party. He's a Republican. He's a Trump supporter. I want you to show the power of Wayne Root's audience, the War Now audience. There's no reason why in 5 minutes we can't raise him $5,000. And that's what he needs to get back on his feet, get his car, so he can get to work. So without further ado, Mark Durham is on the line. Hey, Mark.
Welcome back, Wayne Allyn Root.
So did I tell your story properly and correctly?
You did. I do want to say one thing. I was working two jobs, and long story short, I got to work in a high degree of integrity, and that's why I left those two jobs. But since we talked last, I drove 260 miles back to Chandler, Arizona, where I came to Vegas from, to interview with the Christie Sign Company in business since 1920. I drove my 2012 Nissan Juke here. You know, I've done the best I can. I drove my 2012 Nissan Juke here. I parked the car in the apartment complex that I was staying at. I went up to the car the next day in my newly pressed clothes, and I have now had the first car I have ever had repossessed. So here's what I did. We got to get back up. I took an Uber to the job interview, and I met the granddaughter of the founder of the company, Chris Candy. I spent 2 hours with her. She's a great gal. I said, listen, if you could help me get the car back, I'll take a long walk off a short bridge for you. This is a minor problem. So here's the short version. And Wayne, I support Wayne Allen Root, and Wayne is a good guy. Here's my problem. I need $1,942 to get the car back, about $1,000 for tires, insurance, and registration. I need about $3,000. That could change another car payment and I've got until the 14th to get this car done. And here's what I'm going to do. We have to set a goal with the GoFundMe. So I set it for $5,000. GoFundMe takes a portion of that. If your listeners will kindly help me, I never wanted a handout. This was a last resort. We'll raise this $5,000, but here's what we get to do. We get to raise up the name of Jesus Christ, because I'm going to take $1,000 of that money and it's going into ministry. I'm going to build something and be part of something, and your listeners have an opportunity to do that. And I'll get the car back. I'll be unhomeless. I'll work for a living, but I'm going to build something for God, because I'm not alone. There are people all over this country hurting right now. Things have been tough for a lot of people for a long time, but now they're changing. We're going to make America great again. We got a new president. We all need to come together for Donald Trump and become Americans.
So, Mark, how do people reach your GoFundMe page? Where do they go?
They can go to GoFundMe.com/help me get my Nissan back. Or they can just search, or they can, I think that's
so.
it.
They
GoFundMe.
they could go to GoFundMe and they could just put in the search part of it, help me get my Nissan back, and your ad will pop up, right? Your page.
I believe that's the case, and I think you've got a link on your website. They can do that, and my telephone number is 480-489-5528. Anybody wants to talk to me, I'm a stand-up guy. I never wanted a handout. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself. Bad things happen to good people, and darn it, help me. This is a minor deal. I'm literally sleeping in the grass for the last 3 nights, and I don't need anybody's empathy. I don't need anybody's sympathy. I'm going to be fine. I can talk. I'm a bright guy. I got all my hands and legs and feet. I just need my car to earn a living. I literally have a $60,000 or $80,000 job offer at Christie Signs in Phoenix, and I verified that before I talked to you today, so I know that the offer is still there. Help me get my car back, and I'm going to take this job, and I'm going to sell signage like crazy.
All right, so you go to GoFundMe and you look for "Help Me Get My Nissan Back," or more directly would be GoFundMe/Help Me Get My Nissan Back. Yes.
GoFundMe.com/Help Me Get My Nissan Back, I believe, is the link.
Got it. I'm telling you, the easiest way for the average person is just to go to GoFundMe. Once you're there, you can enter into their search engine, "Help Me Get My Nissan Back," and or maybe even enter into Mark Durham, because your name is clearly on that page.
You'll probably get to it either way.
Yes, but I just wanted to make sure people knew about it, and I wanted to give you a shot to come on the show and ask for people's help. And I know you don't want it. I know you don't want to be in this position, but you're a good guy, and I think you deserve the help. And it's so rare that you meet people who really are good guys that have been hit with bad circumstances. And Wayne Root always wants to help those people. You're a Republican. You're a good guy. You're an educated guy. You're a smart guy.
I voted for Donald Trump.
There you go. So Mark Durham, and go to GoFundMe.com/Help Me Get My Nissan Back, or go to GoFundMe and just look for "Help Me Get My Nissan Back." But here's a guy who needs a break, who needs some help, and Wayne Root is saying he is Wayne Root approved, okay? Wayne Root gives a seal of approval.
You help me, and I'm taking $1,000 of that money, and I'm putting it into ministry. We're going to do something for God. God gets a piece of this action.
All right,
and Wayne, and support Wayne Root. He's a good man.
And I stay on top of it to make sure Mark does what he says he's going to do, so you know it's the real thing and it's the real deal. But this is Wayne Root approved, okay? Hey, Mark, we really pray for you and root for you, excuse the pun, and hope everything works out okay. I don't want you sleeping on park benches or on grass anymore. I want him to have a car to get to work. He's a Trump guy. He's a Republican. He's a good man. And he's the face of angry white men. He's the face of what has happened in the last 8 years to a generation of middle-class men. We're getting wiped off the earth. So go to GoFundMe.com/help me get my Nissan back and help Mark Durham. You have Wayne Root's support. You have Wayne Root's push for my listeners to help this man, Mark Durham. Okay? Thank you, Mark. All right, I guess he's gone. All right. Good man, and I want to help him. So I hope all of you will go there. I don't care if you give $5. You know what? Buy one less cappuccino at Starbucks. Guess what? Starbucks doesn't deserve your money anyway. They're too busy hiring 10,000 Muslim immigrants. Thanks a lot, Starbucks. Maybe you should hire Mark Durham. Wayne Allyn, War Now. When we get back, lots of calls. We're already lined up, I see, with calls, and we'll take more. Phone number is 844-WAR-NOW-1. 844-WAR-NOW-1 from anywhere in the United States. I understand that our online was down earlier today, but it's back up again, thanks to the wonderful people that run this station. Edward Stoltz, Debbie, you're the greatest. And they worked hard to make sure they coordinated with the phone company and got it back up again. It was a power outage in this area, so our internet was down, but it's all back up. Now you're listening online, and anywhere in the country, you can call me at 844-WAR-NOW-1, which is numerically 844-927-6691. Wayne Allyn, this is War. All right, Wayne Allyn, otherwise known as War, your middle-class warrior, relentless freedom fighter, capitalist evangelist, and conservative rock star, all-around badass. Kind of a nice description, I think, that pretty much is on the money, because anyone who knows me, including my family and friends, would tell you I'm a bit of a badass. I don't take crap from anyone, and that's why I liked Donald Trump from the first moment, because all the other people running for the Republican nomination are your typical, or were your typical politicians. They're a bunch of candy-ass little wussies, and they don't know how to fight back. And I've said for years that Republicans bring knives to gunfights, and someone's got to smack these liberals in the face and then kick them in the balls and finish the job. And Donald Trump's the only one who knows how to fight fire with fire. You know, can you imagine if another Republican was elected president, even a great guy that I like Mike Pence is the nicest gentleman in the world, just the quintessential, perfect, wonderful, nice Christian gentleman. But he's not a street fighter. Mike Pence doesn't know how to fight. So if Mike Pence was under attack for Russian connections, he wouldn't know how to fight back the way Donald just did. Donald said, really? I'm going to change the conversation. Obama wiretapped me. He needs to go to prison. And that became the only story on all the Sunday morning news shows. He changed the conversation by taking a gun and fighting back with real bullets, not fake ammunition. And again, don't let any liberals say I'm trying to assassinate anybody. I've never tried to or asked anyone to assassinate anyone. These are all kind of war analogies. My name is War. Doesn't mean I'm really going to kill you. It means we've got to not physically kill someone, but verbally take them out, change the conversation, or impeach them, or whatever the word is. You got to take control back of the country. And we've done it, but only with a mouth like Donald Trump. Okay? He's a badass. That's how I got in this topic. Wayne Root's a badass. Donald Trump's a badass. And he doesn't take crap. But we're both from New York, and we both understand how you respond on the streets of New York. Show any weakness, and they will trample you. But if you hit back, they respect you. Donald Trump's the only one who knew how to do that. And that's why the Democrats are hysterical. The hysteria is overwhelming. They don't know what to do. The Democratic Party isn't about ideals or principles. It's about payola. And if they don't hold office, they don't control the purse strings. They have no money to bribe anyone with. So they're completely out of power. They don't have the House. They don't have the Senate. They don't have the presidency. They don't have the Supreme Court. They don't have governorships. They don't have state houses. So guess what? They have no money. They have no power. They have no payola. There's no way to pay off environmental groups. There's no way to pay off community organizers. There's no way to pay off get out the vote groups. There's no way to pay off Black Lives Matter. They're hysterical. They have to find a way to destroy Donald Trump because they have no money and they have no power. And they're not sitting at the table anymore, the seat of power. They've got nada, nothing, zip. Zilch. So they're in trouble, and they know it. So it's got to be down to guerrilla warfare. It's got to be down to community organizers. It's got to be down to George Soros paying agitators and anarchists money, big money, to A, disrupt events, B, cause violence, C, maybe even kill people. They want to assassinate Donald Trump. They're sick in the head. You do understand that. At Berkeley, there was rioting, and people got hurt. And just recently, I think it was Middlebury College, I believe it was. I think that's in Vermont. And Charles Murray appeared there. Is it Charles Murray? I can't remember the guy's name. I think it's Charles Murray. But in any case, he's an author and an educator, and he writes conservative books. And they of course described him as a racist. The radical Saul Alinsky-inspired little Marxist puppets at that college, branded him as a racist. And they stopped him from speaking. Literally, they shouted him down. They don't believe in free speech, and if they had a chance, they would kill him. As sure as I'm standing here, they'd kill him. I know if they had a chance, they'd kill Trump. They're sick in the head. And it's all over the internet. They all want to assassinate Trump, and they certainly want to impeach Trump. They want a military coup against Trump. They think all of those are acceptable. They're out of their minds. They're sick. I asked for an impeachment of Obama over fraud. The fraud of Benghazi, the fraud of Obamacare, the fraud of the IRS scandal. But that was 6 years into his presidency. This is since the first day and a month in, they've been screaming impeachment. He hasn't done anything yet, and they want impeachment. And it's only based on what he believes in, not that he's actually done anything wrong. There's been no fraud. He didn't lie to the American people like Obama did. He didn't say if you like your doctor, you can keep him. So Donald Trump isn't guilty of anything after 1 month, and they want impeachment. They were mad when I screamed impeachment after 4 or 5 years of lies and fraud and damaging the middle class and the economy beyond repair with your lies and fraud, Mr. Communist Organizer and Muslim sympathizer Barack Obama. But Trump hasn't done anything. There's no one on welfare that got kicked off. Nobody on Obamacare has been kicked off yet. Not one. He hasn't done anything to hurt anyone. He's 1 month and a few days into his presidency, and they're screaming impeachment. Based on what? Based on Russia? Really? Really? So talking to Russia should get you impeached, but Hillary accepting $145 million at the Clinton Foundation in return for the State Department that she ran as Secretary of State while she collected the $145 million bribe, the State Department actually decided that we should give 20%, 1/5 of America's uranium stock to the Russian companies that gave her the $145 million. That's not impeachable, really. That's not a criminal offense. That's not treason. But having a conversation with the Russian ambassador is treason, according to Democrats, even though we now have photos of 10 high-ranking Democrats and John Kerry and Nancy Pelosi all having a meeting with the same Russian ambassador. The Democratic Party has lost their minds. They're freaking idiots, and they're mentally ill, and they need their meds. And I think most of them are on meds, and it doesn't even help anymore. They're mentally ill wackos, and they're out for murder and bloodlust. And they're being paid and stirred up by communist influences all over the world. And I think what this really is a battle between old Soviet communists who support the Democratic Party and maybe new capitalist communists, non-communists, but capitalists of Russia, like Putin and his gang, that actually just want to make money. And they're mad that Russia's been taken over by capitalists, and they hate them. And these are the communists who support the Democrats and the Russian capitalists who support Donald Trump. And there's this vicious break against each other. You know, their necks are battling, and they've got swords, and they're fighting each other. The communism is the Democrats. The Soviets are the Democrats. So when you talk about Russia, the new Russia is a capitalist society. The new Russia is freer with lower taxes than Obama's America. Why are you playing the old Cold War? Is there a reason why you're replaying it? I like Russia. I don't want a war with Russia. I want to make friends with Russia because the people I don't like, radical Islam. I'm at war with radical Islam. Are you? guess who's going to bomb them to hell? Guess who's going to send them to their 72 virgins in heaven? Guess who's going to do it? It's going to be Putin and Trump, America and Russia together. Two countries filled with Christians that are going to bomb them to hell. And guess what's waiting for you when you get there? See, you got it wrong. There was a little miscommunication. It's not 17 virgins. It's 17 Virginians. It's the founding fathers. And when you get there, my Muslim friends, they're going to kick your ass for the rest of all time. Oh, and it's not in heaven either. You're going to be in hell. Got that? Wayne Allyn Root, War Now. All right. From time to time, I give you humor from a great comedian who writes jokes for me and for some of the great late-night comics in America. His name is Cliff Lawrence. He's a great guy. He'll be at the Italian-American event at Club Fiore on Thursday when I'm being honored at 11:30. Knighted as Italian, the Italianization of Wayne event. And here's a little of Cliff's notes. I should call them Cliff Notes. Yeah, Cliff Lawrence's jokes. According to a new poll, President Trump's approval rating has fallen below 1% among terrorists posing as refugees. The TSA is now conducting more invasive pat-downs at U.S. airports. The screener puts on a rubber glove for the search, which I don't mind. I get nervous when he rolls up his sleeves. The war on drugs at Harare International Airport in Zimbabwe, a 39-year-old woman was arrested with 274 grams of cocaine hidden between her buttocks. I believe this is known as crack cocaine. Thank you, Cliff. That was a good one. This is National School Breakfast Week. Sadly, our kids are so fat. Breakfast is now the 10th most important meal of the day. Science has proved women live longer than men, and now scientists know why. Men want to die before their wives. At the New Orleans Audubon Zoo, King Zulu, the white tiger, has died. Sadly, his funeral will be picketed by the activist group Black Tigers Matter. ABC's new gay rights drama. I don't know if you heard about this. There's really a gay rights drama on ABC, and it's like 5 nights in a row, dominating ABC airwaves, and they thought it was going to be a huge hit about the gay rights movement. Nobody watched. Nobody. So ABC's new gay rights drama, When We Rise, is proving to be a flop. Network executives say they don't know why the show isn't catching on because none of them have watched it either. Cliff's good, man. Cliff's good. More problems for Attorney General Jeff Sessions. A search of his refrigerator has turned up a bottle of Russian dressing. The U.S. Postal Service reports it lost $5.6 billion last year. And what's really embarrassing is it was lost in the mail. All right, that's Cliff Lawrence's humor. There's 100 more zingers here, all given, these are reviewed every day by comedy writers for the biggest names in showbiz, and they pick the ones they want. And so I pick a few out for myself, and Cliff is doing a good job, man. He's funny. This guy is funny. All right, we got Dane on line 1 who's been holding a long time. Dane, you're on with War. How are you, man?
Hey, Wayne, how you doing? Good.
This is the Dane the Great?
This is he.
The great war general, the field general?
The 5-star general for Mr. Trump of street marine campaigning and signs. One badass.
The one and only. The one and only. What's happening? What's on your mind, Dane?
Well, hey, listen, first of all, real quick, I want to say I was right behind Mark. I spent a week and a half in my car, and I just landed two jobs I got now, and I just finally found a place. Last night, I spent my first night in an actual bed. it was heaven. But
so wait. I want to identify. You're a middle-aged white male, just like Mark, just like me, and
64.
And in this great Obama economy that we've all lived for the last 8 years, you got to the edge of homelessness and spent a week or two basically homeless, sleeping in your car as well.
Absolutely. I mean, tell you, there was just so few out there. The jobs are $8, $10 jobs that you can't survive on, and they're part-time, and you're replaced by illegal immigrants. It's that simple. I'm telling you, it's that simple of a fact, and it's been a struggle, but I persevered. I just missed getting my car repossessed myself. So it's been tough, but I survived through it. I got 2 jobs now. I'm working, and I found a little place to live, a room to rent, and so by the grace of God, I've been spared one less fatality on the street.
Thank God. But here's the thing, Dane. I want to report to everybody. I never met Mark. We've only spoken on the phone. The gentleman who has called in twice now and has a GoFundMe page and seems like a really nice chap on the phone and a gentleman and a fine man who doesn't deserve the fate of what's happened to him. But I know Dane personally, and Dane has been in the studio, and Dane has been at Trump rallies with me, and he's a fine person. I know him face-to-face, up close and personal, and he's a smart person. He's an educated person, and he's had jobs his entire life, right? Have you ever had periods of joblessness or homelessness in your whole life, Dane?
I have had periods of it, and each time I had to get creative, and I did get creative, and it was the only these employment agencies are just worthless. Some of them just worthless. Some of these career centers, they're just. I'm telling you, it's you have to get creative. You have to get on your own. You have to do something out of the box, way out of the box, and you find a way. And that's how I survived. And I learned a lot of street smarts. I have some creative ways. I mean, just to give you one example of a creative way, you can't carry all the stuff you have because you don't have any stuff in your car anymore. So what I would do, I would take one very good shirt. I'd put that shirt at the cleaners. When I had a job interview, I'd pull it out of the cleaners with a clean pair of pants. It looked like new, and I'd go to the job, and they'd think, this guy's homeless. They wouldn't believe it in a million years. I had a nice tie, a nice shirt. I would go to these places, and I'd find Nordstrom shirts for $2, and I'd make sure that they were clean, ready to press to go as soon as I had the interview. And these were some of the little tricks and where to go to how to make food, because some of these homeless shelters, they're absolutely a depressing state of mind, and they don't help you get out. They help you rely on them, and it becomes an addiction, and you go nowhere.
But according to liberals, Dane, white men are privileged. So, see, you're not supposed to have any problems in life at all, finding a job or having lots of money. You're rich. You can afford all the tax increases of Barack Obama. And you can afford Obamacare because you're a rich, privileged white man. You and Mark Durham are both rich, privileged, educated white men. I've never seen a country where white men educated in their 50s or early 60s can no longer find a job. And we're supposed to be guilty of white privilege. I've never heard such crap in my entire life. You know what? There's just as many white people as blacks in trouble. Just as many.
You forgot one word, Ray, and angry.
Yeah, angry white males, yeah. Well, we have a right to be angry. That's the point. I mean, you and Mark Durham are good examples. Dane Setzer and Mark Durham are good examples of why white males are angry, because there's no privilege to be a white male. My father, just by the way, times are bad now because of Obama, but times were bad in the 70s. There were periods in the 60s where we had a lot of upheaval and crisis and a lot of joblessness in the Vietnam War. My dad had plenty of problems. He was a blue-collar butcher. Nobody ever gave him a break in his life because he was white. And I've had some breaks in my life, and that's because I earned the breaks. I graduated valedictorian in my school. I got accepted at Columbia University. I graduated with honors from Columbia University. From the first day out of college, I was making good money because I was smart, and I was one of the best salesmen every company had ever had. Nobody gave me anything. I earned my breaks. I don't know white people who've ever had a break given to them in their lives because they're white. It's a bunch of crap, Dane. Doesn't exist. Listen, we got to run, Dane.
All right, buddy.
I'm really glad to hear you're back on your feet, and I really appreciate you being a loyal fan and listener of this show and calling in and telling us.
Thanks for your help. Thanks for your help. God bless you.
And thanks for calling in and letting us know what's happening in your life, because I was getting ready to do a kind of a GoFundMe marathon for you two. I'm glad we don't have to do it right now, but we're working on Mark. You get your life in gear. Let me know if you need some help, okay?
I'll see you Thursday.
We love you, Dane. All right, be good. Wade Allyn, War Now. We've got plenty of people listening that are wealthy. We got plenty of people listening that are middle class, plenty of people listening who are jobless and maybe on the verge of homeless. It's a tough world out there, and just because you're white doesn't make it any easier. I'm trying to make it good for everyone. I'm trying to make America great again, like my hero, Donald Trump. We'll be right back. Donald Trump. We'll be right back. Donald Trump. All right, Wayne Allyn Root. I was reading you some of the jokes of comedy writer Cliff Lawrence a few minutes ago. I got a couple more to add. So U.S. Postal Service lost $5.6 billion last year. What's really embarrassing is it was lost in the mail. I gave you that one. Now the post office wants to slow down service. Slow down service. It's not a good idea when your nickname is Snail Mail. Snail Mail, I like that. And finally, in Cleveland, 3 teenagers are facing 133 charges after a series of armed robberies and carjackings. I feel really sorry for these kids. They live in Cleveland. Cliff Lawrence, comedy writer for some of the great comedians and late night talk show hosts, who sends me his work because he's a big conservative and a fan of this show and likes to send me his stuff. So great guy. So we've got some callers on the line. I was going to do a little root rant. I've already ranted a lot in this show, but I'll postpone it for a couple of minutes because we've got Jonathan on line one talking about angry white male. Hey, Jonathan, you're on with W.A.R. How are you?
Hello, Wayne. How are you?
I'm doing great. So why are you an angry white male?
Well, I pine for the days where Obamacare did not exist. I work for a small business here in Las Vegas, and it's a very conservative business. And we used to have group insurance I started working there back in 2012, and we had great insurance. My premiums for me and my wife and my little boy were about $200 to $250, and it was like deductible, maybe about $3,000 deductible. It was great. I mean, back then it was fantastic. Obamacare comes out, and about 2 or 3 years later, I currently don't even have insurance because the best plan I can get is at least $500 a month with a $14,000 deductible.
Yeah, no surprise. We're all in the same boat. It's terrible. It's absolutely awful.
Yeah, so Obamacare personally screwed me over. I had to resort to, and I guess not much of a resort. It's pretty good. It's one of those Christian healthcare sharing groups. Those are pretty cool.
I hope it's mine, Liberty Health Share, that advertises on my show, the sponsor of this show. Liberty Health Share?
Yeah, I did some research, and I used a different one.
Why did you use a different one? Let's hear why.
At the time, I don't know if it's changed, but at the time, it was lower priced for a better plan, but I don't know. Maybe it's changed now.
Yeah, I'm not as worried about lower price for a better plan as I am about do they pay. In other words, you have to be certain that it's a credible company that will actually pay off when the time comes that you need to be paid. And I'm very confident that Liberty Health Share is that company. Now, someone else might have had a lower price plan, but are they credible? Will they pay when the time comes? I think that's the big question. But the point is, we're all being forced to look at alternatives like Christian health sharing plans because nobody can afford Obamacare anymore. Because of Obamacare, no one can afford traditional health insurance anymore. That's the problem.
Well, and even if you can afford it, the plan themselves are garbage. They're not worth a fraction of what we're paying for premiums.
Right. I know. I'm with you.
I mean, if the premiums are like $100 and you've got a $14,000 deductible, I mean, that's granted. But at $500, it used to be a $500 premium would be like less than $1,000 deductible. I mean, you get a fantastic insurance for $500 a month, but now it's garbage.
Hey, Jonathan, just to show you that you're exactly right. 8 years ago, when Obama became president, I was paying $500 for a family of 6, and it was a fantastic policy through Aetna. It took care of everything, and the deductible was low, and they were fantastic. They paid for several surgeries that someone had to have in my family, and they covered the whole bill, and I love them. And now the bill is $2,000 a month instead of $500, and they cover nothing, and it's the same company, Aetna, and they even put in writing, blame Obamacare. They said that. I got dropped. I got dropped from my $500 plan. They came back and wanted me to pay $1,500, and they said this is 100% because of the costs of and regulations of Obamacare. And now they came back and said now it's $2,000, and that's when I switched to Liberty Health Share. So you're 100% right. You used to get a great policy for $500, and now you get a garbage one for $2,000. And this country's entire economy has been wrecked by Obamacare. That's why GDP is 1.3%, and no one gets it. And all the Democrats say is, oh, my God, people will lose their Obamacare. You can't allow that. Well, can you allow the economy to have a 1.3% GDP? What kind of misery has been created by Obamacare that you're not talking about every day? Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, because no problem. Take care.
All right, thank you. We've got JD on the line, one of our regulars who occasionally guest hosts for W.A.R. JD, how are you?
I'm doing great, partner. A couple of things, if I may. Another great article today in the paper. No headline is no evidence of massive voter fraud. I guess you read that one.
You mean the letter to the editor attacking me? I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a Mr. Edward Williams. Anyhow, I'm going through my letters, and this one you'll remember. Back in October of 25, you wrote a column about your evidence of all the cab drivers who claimed that they were going to vote for Trump.
Yes.
And Mr. Stephen Pash says, that's mathematically impossible. So, Stephen, you got screwed again. I wanted to ask you yesterday, but I the time was short. While you were overseas, did you follow our political news, and how did you read it, or their take on what's happening in the Trump administration?
Well, there's a massive attack going on. And, I told this story off mic, and I think it applies to your question. I told a story about, I put it up on my Facebook page and my Twitter page today, an Amish farmer who made a skin salve in a little jar for people who have skin cancer, and it supposedly magically heals them. And he put the word healing on his jar, and he makes it at home, and he has, I believe, 17 children, and his whole family pitches in and makes the jar, this Amish farmer. And because he put the word healing on his jar, and an FDA government bureaucrat saw it in a store in Missouri, he's been charged with like 100 crimes. They came with guns. FDA agents with guns knocked his door down, confiscated everything he owns, and held his children at gunpoint like hostages. And they are scarred with PTSD, the little children. And he was convicted in court of making false health claims for a homemade salve. And he faces 63 years in prison. He's 56 years old, which means they're going to kill him. They want to give him life in prison for making a salve that has the word healing in it with natural healing. And that reminds me of what is happening to Donald Trump. These government bureaucrats are scum, and they are unaccountable to the people, and they're filling every agency in this country, and they see that their gravy train is about to end. Trump's going to fire them. Trump's going to reduce the workforce. Trump's going to go after their pensions and lower them because they're bankrupting our country. And JD, they're all angry. They think they own us. They think we're their servants. Even though they're called civil servants, they think we work for them, and they're kings and queens because they work for government, and the rest of us are serfs who have no say in our own lives. They're puppet masters, and they think they control us. And I'm telling you, we're coming to get them. And so they're coming out of the woodwork to destroy Donald Trump, to lie, to cheat, to eavesdrop, to spy. They're disgusting people. Our government is filled with maggots and cockroaches, and they're out to destroy Trump.
How is the foreign governments that, when you were there, portraying him and his administration in their news outlets?
Exactly the same as ours are. Terrible, horrible, but the people don't all believe it. At my events, we're business leaders, and they like Donald Trump. Just
Right,
like
I know.
America.
Right.
Just like
I
America.
know.
Businessmen in
Hey,
America like Trump.
By the way, one other thing, I know you got callers. I'm going to go over to a restaurant tomorrow with Clemenza, and we're going to make sure it's safe, okay?
Yeah. Make sure that Clemenza clears the Italian-American Club for Wayne Root of any sort of bombs, devices, or government employees, okay?
Because we don't want Tom Hagen to say, like we don't want Sally to say to Tom Hagen, hey, Tom, can you get me off the hook for old time's sake?
All right. Leave the gun, take the cannolis, okay? I'm Wade Alaroot, War Now. Thanks, JD. When we get back, we've got Corey Lewandowski, who was the original campaign chairman, national campaign chair for Donald Trump, to tell you a story about how he went from an average guy in New Hampshire to running a campaign for the next president of the United States. He did it for a year. He got Donald Trump through all the important primaries, including New Hampshire, and well on the way to being president. And now he's a big shot in Washington, D.C., one of the top political consultants in the world. His name's Corey Lewandowski. He had breakfast at my home on Sunday. He's a great guy, now become a great friend, and he's joining the board of my company. Corey will be with us in just a moment. One of the great Donald Trump stories coming up. All right, Wayne Allyn Root. We're going to have Corey Lewandowski, Donald Trump's campaign manager, a little bit later in this hour. I wanted to get him right now, but I just got him on the phone, and he's preparing something for Donald Trump as we speak. At this second, he's working on a major proposal for Donald Trump. He needed about a half hour, so we'll call him at about 5:45, and we'll get him for the last segment of the show. We've got Gary on the line now. Gary, you're on with Wayne Allyn Root. How are you? Gary.
Hey, Wayne.
Hey, what's up, Gary? It's War.
I know it is. I gave up and I went down the street to the Red Moon Pizza place, and he gave me this really good food for helping sweep up the parking lot from. I did something really wrong, though. It's not right. I promised him that you were so special and famous that you could actually get Carlos Santana to come over there and visit the restaurant, because he's a rock and roll drummer like LJ of Cadillac, and he knows a lot about music, but he's from the East Coast. And he gave me, oh, my gosh, this dinner. He gave me this dinner in this tin thing. I gave up. I held on as long as I could on the phone. And I'm trying to remember what it was I wanted to bother you with. Oh, if
just so you know, I noticed, Gary,
Trump,
just so you know, I noticed everything. I saw you were holding on the phone, and then I saw you dropped off, and I was wondering what happened to Gary. So I was concerned why my Gary dropped off, just so you know.
No, you never need to be concerned about Gary, because Gary never goes away. Gary always comes back. Gary understands you're running a business here. I understand. And I know I'm a troubled human being. I always have to keep calling. But I wanted to say that if Donald Trump tweeted out that he wanted to spend lots and lots of money to find out what the cause of liberalism is, I think it would be funny as hell. It would be better than Saturday Night Live,
But I could give you the answer, Gary. It's mental illness. I know what the cause of liberalism is.
That's what I mean.
Absolute.
If we can find a cure for it.
It's an area of a brain that's completely disturbed and in crisis, and that causes liberalism. They're whacked out. They don't know what they're saying. They don't know what they're doing. I was watching a movie today called The Pianist. I guess that's how you pronounce it, right? A piano player, the pianist, not pianist. It must be a pianist. And it was about Nazi Germany. When I hear liberal Jews, and I'm Jewish, right? I'm Jewish. My relatives are mostly liberal Jews.
I'm part Jewish. My grandfather was Jewish Italian. Oh, and congratulations. You're my.
I'm a Jewish Italian like
now.
you. There we go. But I was sitting there watching the movie, just thinking how absurd it is that liberal Jews compare Trump to Nazis and Hitler when Donald Trump is trying to keep bad people out of America whose goal is to kill Jews, who hate Jews, who want to go to Jewish day schools and hurt Jewish children. You don't want them in the country. Donald Trump's trying to protect Jews, and he's also going to be the best president for Israel in history, and Jews have the nerve to call him Hitler and Nazi. It's sick. So there's a lot of mentally disturbed liberals in this world. It's not about Judaism. It's about liberalism that makes them mentally disturbed.
I hope these same leftists, mentally ill people, aren't like working in laboratories discovering medicine with the way their brain works.
Look,
their brains don't work.
Well, no, their brains work on some things. I mean, you find me the most liberal, revolting people in the world. They're all in Hollywood, and they make great movies. They sing great songs on a stage. I'm sure Mick Jagger's a total liberal, but he's a great singer. Madonna's a great singer, but she's a liberal whacknut in the real world. So Barbara Streisand's a great singer, but she's a liberal whacknut. So you could be talented and liberal.
Mick Jagger's only half a liberal. He was sent to economics, a very high school in England. He learned all about economics and stuff. That's where his parents are from. It's in his DNA.
And I'll bet
he
you,
knows
Gary,
about money.
And I'll bet you, just like Bono, right? These are all hypocrites. The average fan of Bono thinks he walks on water. He's this wonderful, liberal, sensitive guy. But here's the deal with Bono. The U2 group and the Rolling Stones, to my knowledge, I'm going to say allegedly, so I don't get in any trouble on the airwave. I seem to remember both the Rolling Stones and U2 take all of their worldwide revenue and they send it to the Netherlands, where their corporations are built on purpose or based on purpose, because Netherlands doesn't tax residual income, and the money they get is considered royalties or residual income, so the tax rate is zero. So these bands make $200 million a year and pay zero taxes because it's not considered income tax from a job. It's considered royalties that you get off an album.
And the people who are on the left worship them like they're gods. I remember Ringo Starr, an exclusive interview with Howard Stern, saying that he was living in southern France where the taxes were so low at the time. And he said that life goes on without the Beatles, there's no problem. And he emphasized that they were living in a certain part of France where the taxes were extremely low.
Right. Well, so many liberals live in a place called Monaco, Monte Carlo, and the tax rate is zero.
All the hippies and all the left-wing people worship them.
Yeah, how about
I don't know.
Don't all the liberals today worship Facebook? But one of the founders of Facebook, whose name escapes me, I'm not talking about Mark Zuckerberg, but one of the other founders left the United States, renounced his citizenship, took his, I think he's got $2 billion. Zuckerberg has like $70 billion, but this guy has $2 billion. So he was a small piece of the original founding members of Facebook, and he renounced his American citizenship and he moved to Singapore, where the tax rate on capital gains is zero. So everyone worships Facebook, but nobody minds when liberals do things like that. They're all hypocrites. They don't want to pay taxes. They think taxes, like Leona Helmsley once said, are for the little guys, the little people.
I don't have nothing against hypocrites. I'm a hypocrite a lot of times. But I have hypocrites on steroids with $70 billion is too much for me. And thank you for your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
sir.
Gary. Always appreciate that you're a big fan of the show and you love to call in, and we love to hear from you. We've got Robert on line too. Robert, you're on with W.A.R. How are you?
Thank you. So, I have a friend whose sister just retired from the post office, and they said politicians need to take a polygraph, and they all must take a drug test, and they all must publicly show us finances, because some of these clowns only get $70,000 a year, but they end up in $4 million homes.
Harry Reid. Robert,
as good as they do in the post office.
Robert, Harry Reid.
Because there's a lot of criminal activity.
Harry Reid, Robert. Harry Reid. There's your poster boy for getting a very modest salary as a U.S. Senator and being worth $10 or $15 million when he leaves, one of the richest men in the U.S. Senate. How did he live for all those years on $170,000 a year minus taxes, paying for a family in a suite in the Ritz-Carlton in Washington, D.C., while he kept his home in Las Vegas, and then retired with, I think it's $15 million at this point. I think he was the fifth richest man.
One of the last thing is really important. Everybody needs to understand that the Echelon program was started by Bill Clinton, and when he got kicked out of the White House, many of the rogue agents went with him, and the Echelon program continued. And ladies and gentlemen, the Echelon program basically is this. They copy and spy on us. We've been spied on for a long time. Obama knows. Obama continued on with that, and we've all been spied on. And Obama and Bill Clinton are the greatest traitors and spies in the history of American history. Now, all you got to do is ask Mr. Trump, our president, to offer a grant immunity to all federal agents that are willing to come forward and present evidence, because right now, if you come forward, you can get in trouble. And then we would need to prosecute Bill Clinton and Obama, and they need to go to Gitmo, because they've been spying on us and they've destroyed our country. They're the greatest spies in the history of America. And then Obama needs to be tried for murder, because he killed so many people with his stealth programs. He used to sit in these situation rooms. He used to sit in the situation room watching these drones attack people, and he missed his target so many times. He was never prosecuted for all the murder, the people he killed. He's a murderer, he's a traitor, and a spy. Bill Clinton and Obama need to be tried for treason.
Well, I know this much, Robert. I didn't get a chance to dig into it because I had a busy day, and then I had to rush here to do the radio show. So I didn't.
They need to subpoena the drone pilot that was working on the Benghazi, because the drone pilot heard all the chatter in the room. Obama watched the boys die in Benghazi and did nothing about it. The drone pilot needs to be granted immunity. He'll come forward and pull the files on that drone mission whenever.
Yes.
Ambassador Stephen Byrne.
And Robert, did you see today? Because I didn't have time to read it in detail, but there's a new pile of WikiLeaks was dumped today about the CIA and what they do to spy on us. And my understanding is a big part of it that they released all the secrets of the CIA is they have built into every television in America. Televisions. The television.
Yes, there's more than that.
They could spy on us.
Hang on, don't hang up on me. Hang on, listen to me. Just one
we got 1 minute. 1 minute.
One thing. Ask President Trump to subpoena the drone pilot that was operating the drones during Benghazi, because he heard in his headset the chatter. Obama and Hillary watched Ambassador Stevens burned, and he signed an executive order to gag the NSA, ungag the NSA, grant them immunity, prosecute Bill Clinton and Obama for espionage. The NSA all I get is grant them immunity and they'll come forward. But that's what happened.
All right. Thank you, Robert.
Traitors, and we need to prosecute them.
All right, Robert. Thank you. Wayne Allyn, War Now. When we get back, we'll have more of your calls. 1-844-WAR-NOW 1-844-WAR-NOW 1. Anywhere in the country. And we'll also have that interview with Corey Lewandowski, the man who helped Donald Trump become president of the United States. We shall return. All right, so when I started the show today, this is Wayne Allyn, War Now at 790 Talk Now in Vegas, as well as 98.1 FM in Palm Springs, and you can now reach us all over the country online. We will be nationally syndicated soon, and I'll be making an announcement within a matter of days, but we do have a national phone-in number now if you're listening online at 844-WAR-NOW-1, 844-WAR-NOW-1, which is numerically 844-927-6691. I opened the entire show by mentioning that the Atlanta Fed slashed the first quarter GDP to only 1.3%. This is the result of Obamacare. So when you let liberals argue that, oh my God, if you undo Obamacare, if you repeal and replace Obamacare, you're throwing poor people in the street, they won't have health care anymore. No, what throws poor people in the street is no jobs. Listen to the men, the white middle-aged men who are calling my show, who are living in their cars. This is crazy. And I'm not minimizing how many people there are living in crisis and poverty who are black or Hispanic, but isn't that what Democrats expect? Don't they claim everyone poor, everyone black and of color is poor and in crisis and living in their cars and homeless? It's a white-black issue. They think it's only people of color because white people have privilege. But so many of the loyal listeners of my show are proving that it's everyone is affected, that Obamacare has killed middle-class Americans, salt to the earth, white, middle-class, middle-aged men. That's why I wrote a book called Angry White Male. And now you hear people who are kind of fans of the show or going through these things, living the problems of the Obama economy. Come on. This is the fault of Obamacare. It has wiped out, A, everyone's savings, B, their budgets, and C, kill jobs. There's nothing to replace your job once it's gone. But no one can afford health insurance anymore. Obama's made it unaffordable. Just like he complained about the affordability of health care, he's the one that then made it unaffordable, and he complained about inequality, and he's the one that's created the greatest inequality in the history of America. There's never been more inequality than there is now. And the more he tried to solve inequality with fairness, equality, and social justice, when you base an entire economy on freaking the color of people's skin, when you hire someone not because they're good, not because their performance or their resume or their educational background is fantastic, but because they're black or because they're Mexican, when you base an economy on the color of people's skin, social justice, when you say, oh, the world's been unfair to black people and Mexican people and people of color, so let's give them the jobs. And let's cause pain to the people in power who happen to be white and middle class or small business owners. And it's not like I'm making this stuff up. Every policy Obama ever designed was to hurt people in power. And ask Democrats who's in power. Every liberal you meet will tell you white people have all the power. So an entire economic agenda was created to hurt people in power who were considered people with privilege, white people. Ask CNBC the breakdown of business owners in America, by the way. 85% of all small businesses are owned by white people. That means 15%, which is millions of businesses, are owned by black Americans, Hispanic Americans, women, gays, whatever, but 85% are owned by whites, primarily white men. So there's what liberals complain about all day. All the power is with white people. So when you build a system that redistributes the income and punishes those in power, guess what it really is? Racism. You're punishing people because they're born white and you think they have privilege. And he's accomplished it, isn't it? When Dane Sensor, a fan of the show, shows up here all the time, who showed up at every Trump rally, and he's a very intelligent person, and when he winds up homeless, living in his car, and about to lose the car, do you think maybe something's wrong? When Mark Durham, a fan of the show, who moved to Vegas to grab a job and then came here for his last gasp attempt to keep from being homeless and losing his car, and he comes here and the jobs don't pan out and he finds himself homeless on the streets of Vegas. Now he's back to Phoenix and they confiscated his car. And he's white and middle-aged. Is there privilege there? Well, not under Obama. There's sure no privilege to be a white male. See, there's a problem. White men don't take welfare. White men don't want Medicaid. White men don't want food stamps. We've been trained. I was trained by my parents. I'd have to be living in a gutter, dying with sores all over my body to accept help from government. To me, that's the most filthy, disgusting thing in the world to accept welfare. I would never do it. Obviously, neither will Dane, neither will Mark. But fortunately or unfortunately, there's a lot of people who vote for Obama who got no problem, have no problem at all, accepting welfare and food stamps and Medicaid and aid to dependent children and free meals at school and housing allowances. They've never been taught there's a shame in having an EBT card, a shame in accepting welfare, a shame in food stamps. They think it's just fine. It's how you live. So Obama's crowd is living fine. They're doing better than they were before Obama came along because the government's giving them everything free. But all the white males of the world won't accept welfare, have been trained that that's a terrible thing to do. It's a shameful thing to do. They're becoming homeless because there are no jobs and their income's down. Let's take Tony on line 3. Tony, you're on with W.A.R, one of our regulars. Hey, Tony.
Hey, Wayne. How you doing?
Good. Haven't heard from you in a while. How are you?
It's good. Good. Are you over your jet lag?
Better. Not quite over it, but better. Close.
Listen, I got a neighbor here. She's a teacher, and I spoke to her the other day. She was dealing with like 178 kids on the east side, and just out of curiosity, I asked her, I said, do they all speak English? She looked at me and rolled her eyes. She said, maybe 65 to 70% speak English. Mm-hmm. I said, you got to be just
Wait. I want to make sure you said that right. 65% speak English or 65% speak Spanish?
65% speak English. The rest don't speak English.
Of any, no English at all? Okay,
no English. No English.
Because I'm sure the 65% who speak English don't speak it very well. Only. What would you say? A poquito? Is that the Spanish word? A little bit? Poquito? Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And she just tears her hair out. If you can't communicate, how in the hell are you going to learn anything?
Well, here's the real sin, okay? And I remember when I had Danny Tarkanian as a guest. He ran for U.S. Congress. He's a great guy. He's Tark's son, Tark the Shark. And he was in as a guest, and he talked about his 2 kids were in public schools, and he had to take them out and put them in Catholic school because they weren't learning anything because so many kids spoke Spanish that the teacher had to speak so slowly and repeat everything and explain everything that no one else in the class was learning a damn thing. No liberal wants to admit this is happening.
Right, and this is the fundamental. Forget about learning, math. The fundamental problem. You've got to communicate. If you can't communicate, you can't possibly learn anything. And when the government starts printing everything in Spanish and English, and the other day I got something that was out of Walmart or something. It was Spanish first, then English.
Yeah.
I threw it against the wall. I was so
my
mad.
RJ column said, number 1, we've got to have voter ID with photo and fingerprint. And number 2, you can only vote in English. If you can't learn English, then you have no right to vote. No one should be allowed to vote in Spanish. I've never heard anything so outrageous in my life.
You
have no right to vote in
outrageous.
another language. No right at all. And this is not a rant against people who speak Spanish. You have no right to vote in German. My grandfather was German. He voted in English. You have no right to vote in Russian. My other grandfather was Russian. There I am. I must be with Donald Trump as one of those Russian sympathizers because 100 years ago, my grandfather was Russian. And by the way, Tony, I like Russian dressing too. So I must be a bad guy. I gotta be. We're all in with the Russians, all of us.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, hopefully, I know Trump's aware of this, But I know he's taken some steps. He's not having the website is pure English at the White House and so forth. That's great. It's got to continue because these kids can't learn anything.
Yeah, well, it can only continue if you have a Republican Congress that doesn't get in your way every step of the way. And I fear that Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell are going to get in his way every step of the way. Tony, we got to run. Got to take care of our sponsors. Thank you, Tony. All the great sponsors who make this show possible. You're going to hear from right now. When we get back, we'll have Corey Lewandowski, Donald Trump's great campaign manager. We'll be right back. All right, Wayne Allyn Roots. We've got the great Corey Lewandowski joining us. We've become fast friends. He was at my home for breakfast a couple of days ago. What a lovely, lovely wife and great family he's got, 4 kids, and just, kind of a typical average guy who loved politics, who catapulted himself through, great personality and action and really aggressiveness like me, like Donald Trump. He went from an average guy to one of the most important political figures in the United States of America, at Donald's side day and night, national campaign manager, helped win him the nomination, really led to Donald Trump being president. And today he's a very important political consultant in Washington, D.C., and I count him as a friend. Hey, Corey, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, and I think that introduction was way too bold. I'm just an average guy, let me tell you that.
You were an average guy, but you're no average guy anymore. You're a famous guy. I mean, everybody knows the name Corey Lewandowski. If I mention that name, I think it's right up there with any of the great Karl Rove-type political consultants at this point. Everyone knows the name. And so just tell us kind of a shorthand version of how it happened. How did you go from a guy in New Hampshire who worked on political campaigns to Donald Trump's right-hand man managing his national campaign?
No, I learned the value of hard work when I was very, very young, and never learned the word no. And so when I had the opportunity to meet Mr. Trump in New York, I went over there and met him, and lo and behold, he and I ended up having a very fast friendship. And before I left his office, he hired me on the spot to, first he convinced me he's going to run for president, and second he hired me on the spot to run his campaign. And we spent 6 months laying out a strategy before we launched the campaign on June 16th of 2015, and then went on to devise a strategy that helped secure him the nomination and ultimately led him to becoming president of the United States. And, what I say to everybody is just go and try and do something different. There's a lot of people who sit back and say, boy, I wish I could do that, or you're so lucky. It's not luck, it's hard work, as you know, and you make your own luck when you work hard.
Yes, you do. And by the way, I want you to just let me know out loud, who was the first guy who said on that exact day that Donald declared for president that he was going to win the presidency on Fox News? Was that guy Wayne Root? Yeah, that was me. That was me.
Were there. And as you know, I have a lot more friends today than I did when we launched that campaign on June 16th, because many people told me it would be the end of my political career.
You there, Corey? Corey, you there? We lost him somehow. Charlie, get him back. All right, I guess we lost Corey. We'll get him back. In the meantime, while we're waiting for him to get back, I want to mention this article I saw, which, again, kind of frames what's happened to the American economy. America's desperate mall owners turn to grocers, doctors, and high schools to fill empty space. And so malls are like ghost towns. They can't find stores anymore. As vacant square footage grows larger, mall owners are being increasingly forced to turn to non-conventional tenants to fill empty space. And per the Wall Street Journal, the latest target of mall owners is grocers, with everyone from Whole Foods to Kroger snapping up. We got him back? All right, we got him. Corey, you there?
Cell phone service. Don't ever use a cell phone.
I know. I try never to let my guests use cell phones, but you're an exception because I wanted everyone to hear your story. So
thank you.
Yes, I was there at the beginning, and I know you were the guy who ran the show at the beginning, so you get all the credit in the world. And we all helped elect a president of the United States, but you get the most credit of anyone on that list. And my question to you is, what's he going to do now? How is he going to make it work when all the banshees and the anarchists and the crazy people and the government employees on the gravy train have come out from their hiding places like cockroaches, and they all desperately want to stop him? So they're eavesdropping and they're spying and they're letting loose with verbal barrages and physical barrages. They talk about assassination on Twitter and on Facebook, and they're just letting loose with leaks that'll try and sink his presidency. They're talking impeachment. They're talking military coup. How does a Donald Trump beat back the entire government employees, 22 million of them, of the United States of America, and actually drain the swamp?
Well, the first thing he has to do is he has to get his Senate confirmation members through. And the Democrats, as you know, are slow rolling these. They don't want to give him those confirmation members. The cabinet is still not filled out. We're at day, 50 now of this administration. He still doesn't have his full cabinet, doesn't have the Secretary of the Army, doesn't have the Secretary of the Navy, doesn't have the number 2 person of the Commerce Department, which requires a Senate confirmation, doesn't have the Secretary of the Air Force in place. These are all key positions that are going to help understand the core competency of the government. But more importantly, what they will do is they will keep the bureaucrats in line. Now, I don't happen to know this individual who is running the Department of Labor right now, but it's my understanding he has been at the Department of Labor since 1976. He may be the finest man on the planet, but I think that, this year we have elected a president who's bringing fundamental and wholesale change to Washington, which means ridding the government bureaucracy of 40 and 45 and 50-year employees. And you may not believe this, but I would think that the workforce has changed slightly since 1976 till today.
And the question is, do you even need 22 million government employees? Don't you think that's a little bit of overkill? I mean, that's why we're bankrupt. That's why we're $20 trillion in debt. 22 million government employees. Some of them may be the nicest people in the world, Corey Lewandowski, but that doesn't mean every one of them does a great job and is needed in their job. I think there's a little bit of replication there, don't you think?
Well, this is the great thing. The president signed an executive order putting a hiring freeze on all government employees moving forward. Hopefully that leads to attrition because, unfortunately, unlike the private sector that I work in or that you work in, if you're not good at your job, you're terminated. If you're a government employee, you literally shy of probably committing a violent felony against somebody, they can't terminate you. It's called tenure, and it doesn't matter if you're good or you're bad, but you get to stay forever and ever, and the longer you stay, the more money you make. It's not a merit-based system. The problem with that is, once you hit your cap of 30 years in the system and you get 80% of your pension, you have no interest in actually leaving because you're still making more money than you would if you retire, and you're not doing a whole bunch of heavy lifting. The system is fundamentally flawed. If the private sector worked like that, every private business on the planet would be out of business. You can't just have it that your tenure is how long you've been there. And it's unfortunate, but you know what happens? You ask a government employee, what do you do? And they say, I've been in my job for 22 years. No, I didn't ask how long you've been there. What did you accomplish in that period of time?
Right.
You go ask a private sector employee, what did you do? I increased the ROI for my company. I brought new business in. I streamlined the process. They don't say, I've been at the private company for 17 years, because that's not the measure of success.
Actually, you know what a lot of my friends say, Corey? A lot of my friends will say, well, I was there from the first desk to now we have 3,000 employees, and I'm the general manager, and I hired every one of those 3,000. That's what you hear from a private sector go-getter and a guy who's a can-do private sector person. So I agree with you. And don't forget, Corey, think of the other problem. It's not just that they're forever. It's that when they finally retire, they think they deserve 6-figure pensions for the rest of their lives for not working. Problem.
So, but the point is they're getting them, and there are government employees, and look, there's a website that used to track this stuff. There are government employees out there who are receiving pensions north of $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year.
Correct.
And you say, hold on a second, that doesn't make any sense. And look, that's an anomaly, to be candid, and there are a number of government employees who've gone in and done a good service and make a $30,000 a year pension after 30 years. I respect that. I truly do, because they don't usually pay into the Social Security system if you're a government employee. So that is their pension, and I respect that. But people abuse the system. They go in and they try and get as many quarters at the highest rate possible so that they can jack their pension system. It's a broken system. It has to change, and Trump is going to change that.
We only have about a minute left. Will Trump be able to pass something that really does kill the heart or gut the heart of Obamacare? What would you say the odds are he's going to actually get something that truly isn't Obamacare light, but really is a repeal of Obamacare?
Well, I think the issue that you have is, if more than 22 Republicans decide to jump ship, then you're going to have a problem getting the legislation passed.
Yeah.
And I do think that it should have included the opportunity to buy health insurance across state lines. It should have been one of the original provisions in this legislation. I think it's a critically important thing. I hope as they negotiate and they mark up this bill that they add that in so that you can have greater competition across state lines. You can have a bigger insurance pool so people can actually choose if they want to get insurance in Kansas, which is tailored to their needs, That's what they should be able
How
to
the
do.
hell did they leave that out? I can't believe they left that out. That's amazing. That was what Donald Trump said from day one was the hallmark of what he wanted to do. Hey, Corey, we got to run, but I'm glad we kept it short because I know you're working on something major for the wonderful President of the United States. So go do what you got to do. Thank you for coming on. Where can people reach you? Is there a good website?
Oh, just go to avenuestrategies.com or, you type in the name Corey Lewandowski. Unfortunately, it shows up on the internet everywhere.
You got it. Thanks, Corey. Wayne Allyn, War Now. See you tomorrow.